It's the weekend, and that means it's time to look at the week ahead. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast, a sports ethos presentation hosted by yours truly, Aaron Bruski, and FSWA Hall of Famer Steve, Dr. A. Alexander. Today, we're trying to get ahead of the chaos that's about to ensue in fantasy leagues. But before we get ahead of the chaos that's about to ensue, let's say hello to our sponsor. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform, your number one source for online betting in 2025. Whether you're a seasoned fan or a first-time bettor, BetOnline is your ultimate game day companion with the largest selection of odds on everything from NBA and college basketball to the NHL and UFC, pardon me, I can read. BetOnline continues to be your number one sports betting source for every three to hat trick. BetOnline has you covered with odds, stats, and more for every game, every play, and every win. BetOnline, the game starts here. Steve, would you like to bring us in with song? Would you like to sing us into this episode? It's the week ahead. No.
Hey now, I'm an all sport. The number's 25. No, we're recording this. I'm going to give away a secret here. We're recording this on Friday. But on Friday night, I'm going to see the REM Michael Shannon show in Athens. So when you're listening to this, I'm probably a little hungover and probably hopefully coming off an incredible night of partying with REM.
So do they sing, "Hey, now you're an all-star"?
No. I think that guy died, actually.
Ooh, that's more. That's Smash Mouth.
I think the lead singer of Smash Mouth may have.
It's gone out of the rotation, but that was one of my son's favorite songs. And so for the first 100 times I listened to it, I was really, really annoyed. And then I grew to like it again. And here we are. But let's not talk about Smash Mouth. Let's not talk about, actually, I do kind of want to talk about your REM stuff because that sounds cool. But let's talk about some fantasy basketball stuff in the week ahead. We have a lot of games again. It's like the league has just hit the gas pedal. It's, I think, the same configuration as the week prior, but 18 teams play 4 games, 12 teams play 3 games. So everybody's playing. We only have 2 teams that play 2 back-to-backs. I don't think there's anything too noteworthy. Maybe Milwaukee with the Stars, so keep an eye out for some absences for the Stars there. Maybe Bam Adebayo in Miami, possibly, but who knows? Other than that, it's
I don't like the 2 back-to-backs for Dame and Giannis.
No.
Both have, like, I could see them only playing. Do they have 4 games? Milwaukee, yes.
And at the risk of talking about the Detroit Pistons again for way too long, if they do rest those games, then my Pistons could join the top end of the bracket. A 4 seed.
Hello.
Don't get me started.
I would say I would not be surprised if this ends up being a 2-game week for Dame and Giannis.
Which doesn't do a ton for fantasy GMs, unfortunately. It does a lot, or not a lot, but it does a little, I should say.
Because Milwaukee's not in jeopardy of falling out of the top 6. They are in jeopardy of being passed by your Bucks. I mean, by your Pistons, but they're also right on the heels of Indiana. But they can afford to lose a couple games. What
did I say, great producer Andre Lamouche? I said, if Detroit finishes with a top 4 seed, my coach of the year bet hits. Shout out JB Bickerstaff, presumptive coach of the year. But as for this week, I know. You started it, I think.
No, it could happen, dude.
It could. And I can't wait. But as far as the week ahead goes, this is a really weird week. I don't remember a week like this. You could tell me, Doc, you've been doing this longer than I have. It's between 6 and 9 games all week long. 7 games Monday, 9 games Tuesday, 8 games Wednesday, 6 games Thursday, 8 on Friday, 8 on Saturday, 8 on Sunday. That's even. So there's room for streaming. There's a quality day on Thursday with just 6 games. Monday, 7 games. I mean, there's just spots here. There's a lot of spots to grab some value. Pardon me as I burped. My apologies to the masses. Let's start with the top streaming teams for Monday, if you don't mind, sir. Houston Golden State, Atlanta, and Philly all have a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back, and they play 3 games in 4 days. So we'll start with them. Who do you like out of those 4 squads as streamers to kick off your week?
I thought that I was going all in on Moses Moody, and I was really excited about Moses Moody, but he really hasn't been very good for Golden State. Especially his last game.
You trusted Steve Kerr with all that.
Steph Curry went off for like 56 points. Moody,
That hurt
I think,
everybody.
0.
Jimmy Butler had like 3 or something. It was gross.
I can't blame this Moses Moody thing on Steve Kerr, because Steve Kerr was like, I'm starting Moses Moody, and he's been playing him, and Moses Moody's getting minutes, but Moody is not doing anything with his minutes. So now I'm like, I thought he was a super hot pickup, but he just has not been fun. I actually trust Brandon Pajemski a little bit more at this point. And then in Houston, I like Dylan Brooks. Tari Eason doesn't play in back-to-backs. Houston has a back-to-back on Monday, Tuesdays. So we're only going to see Tari Eason one of those. So, that is what it is. And in Atlanta, you got Karis LeVert, I think is a good streamer. And Philly, Quentin Grimes, super intrigued. He's slumping right now. It's been a rough 3 games. Paul George is on fire, but if they shut Paul George down, Grimes is going to go off.
Yeah, you nailed a lot of them. Brooks, of course. Quentin Post is getting it done. It's hilarious.
Who is Quentin Post?
He's the poster child for unknown streamers. He's getting late roundish, very low end value, but it's consistent right now. And it feels like they just value his shooting, and that they've kind of become consistent about this. Like the back end of the rotation is going to be Quentin Post minutes, and he opens up the lane for everybody because of his shooting ability. So it's weird to say, but he's a guy. Georges Niang is somebody that's probably picked up on most teams, but if he struggles, if he goes down, I think a pickup there as a streamer and even rest of season play. Mo Gay, I think, is he's been bad lately, so eminently available on waiver wires. But if you're just trying to catch lightning in a bottle and he's getting starts, and maybe he can get you a couple steals and blocks in a 1-game shot, and you get a little marker on some potential upside, but I don't know if it's in the cards for him this season. Interesting there. All right, so Tuesday, we have 4 teams that have a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back, and of them, Cleveland, Minnesota, and the Clippers play 3 games in 4 days. So if you're going to make your first ad on Tuesday, you can look at Cleveland, Minnesota, and the Clippers, and try to maximize some of the streaming ability here. So out of Cleveland, Minnesota, and the Clippers, Cleveland, Minnesota, and the Clippers, who do you like? Out of Cleveland, Minnesota, and the Clippers.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that again? No. Ty Jerome, as we spoke about yesterday, dude, he's like 21% rostered in Yahoo.
Stop what you're doing right now and go make the ad.
Go pick him up.
Just end of story. Rendering the rest of this episode useless for a lot of you.
Nickeil Alexander-Walker for Minnesota has been very good. I'm worried about the return of Dante DiVincenzo and what that's going to do to him. I'm also worried about the return of Julius Randle and what it's going to do to Naz Reid.
You might end up, and we might have that news will probably have hit after this is recorded, but Anthony Edwards is going to miss a game theoretically after last night's whatever you want to call it. I mean, he got a double tech, and then he said a magic word to a referee, and then he threw a ball into the stands. That might be the tipping point for this thing. I love it.
It was awesome. I fully enjoyed that. But yeah, that's good news for NAW for sure. If Anthony Edwards is out, you want Nickeil Alexander-Walker in your lineup.
I want our younger viewers to go Google Bobby Knight and chair and see what used to happen in basketball games back in the 80s. Nickeil Alexander-Walker for sure. Terrence Shannon Jr. has been really interesting. He had a dunk the other night that was like, damn.
Yeah, we talked about him last night, man. He's starting to make noise.
They had two really good young players that I was kind of watching all year long, and Josh Minot and I always forget his name on air. Who's the other guy? I'll try to remember here in a second. But they are not in. It's Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jaden. What is that guy's name? I'm blanking on my Minnesota guys.
What team? Who are you
Minnesota. These young guys have come in and they've become defensive stalwarts. In the case of, why am I forgetting his name?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Jalen Clark. Thank you, Jalen Clark. I get my Jalen's mixed up. But yeah, no, they've come in and solidified minutes while Randall's been out. They've clearly moved to the top of the list. I did get a chance to pick up some film on Shannon preseason, and it was very interesting, but it was like, I don't think he's going to pass Minot. I don't think he's going to pass Leonard Miller. Thank you very much, Leonard Miller. To the great producer, Andre Lamouche. Yeah, no, I think that Minnesota squad's got very interesting streaming.
So Edwards is suspended for Tuesday. Is that correct?
When's their next game?
I feel like
that's the operative question for Minnesota, and I'll have that here in 2 seconds.
I've got it coming too. Boy, we're Minnesota, super prepared, aren't we?
We are. Well, they play the Jazz. If he's suspended against the Jazz here tonight on Friday, as we're recording for Saturday.
Yeah,
that will happen, and then he'll play in Tuesday. So apologies for.
I forgot what day it was.
Implying that Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Terrence Shannon Jr. would get a bump on Tuesday. They'll not get that bump. In fact, they might get smashed by Julius Randle's return. But I think that they've still got streamer abilities. I don't think Randle comes in and just like starts gobbling up 35 minutes a game and all the shots. I think if anything, this might be when they introduce him to a bench role, a much deserved bench role for Julius Randle. A nice 20-minute per game role for Julius Randle, please. That would make everybody happy.
Looking at this, by the time these games roll around on Monday or Tuesday, I think the clear winner out of this group of 4 teams is Ty Jerome. Like that's the pickup, because these Minnesota, Julius Randle coming back, Anthony Edwards being over his suspension, all that's going to mess up the guys I like in Minnesota. The return of Dante DiVincenzo as well. Norm Powell is probably at some point going to be back for the Clippers, so that messes up those streaming options. And then Milwaukee is a streaming wasteland. Although the back-to-back, the double back-to-backs do open the door a little bit.
It opens up for like AJ Green to hit a couple threes.
For AJ Green to hit 3-pointers.
And Gary Trent could come in and be that same guy. Those two guys could go in and be productive for those 2 games, whichever games they are. Chris Dunn's been off the hook lately. Over 3 steals a game. I think I want to say that's like over a 7 or 8 game span. Ben Simmons, when he's playing, he's giving you the stats that you would expect out of him. And if that complements your team build, I think if you're in a 1-game shot, you won't get the back-to-back out of him, most likely. So you would probably just add, play, and then drop. Max Strus and DeAndre Hunter in Cleveland. Hunter might still be rostered based on entire season performance, and somebody's saying, I'll just wait and see. And then he's kind of been, semi-productive in Cleveland so far. But I think with them possibly hitting a posture of resting guys, that makes those players way more interesting, with Ty Jerome obviously at the top of the list, but Strus has been semi-productive lately, DeAndre Hunter as well. Let's do this, Doc. Do you have any other streamers that you wanted to mention? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Anything else striking your fancy?
No, sir.
Because it's the week ahead, but it's really the season ahead, because there's only 40 some odd days. Thank you, sir. And we're going to add singing and dancing and show tunes and kick lines.
The week ahead. Show. I mean, it is the week ahead.
If you thought this was just fantasy, it's going to turn into dancing here real quick. Top 5 players that you expect to lead teams to championships. I'll take a Roto bent to this. If you want to take the head-to-head bent to this, that's fine. And when I was looking at this last night, I wanted to really like just hunker down and be like, okay, what's going to actually be the difference maker here? And there's like different levels of this. There's the highest end level, where which of these studs are going to push across wins for Roto GMs. And then who's in the next tier down that's going to push across wins? Very good players. Sometimes draft position comes into play. Sometimes draft position doesn't come into play, as far as like, hey, like a guy like Dyson Daniels, he's drafted at the very end of drafts, and he's going to push across wins. Okay, what is that really worth? Well, he's been doing this all season, so I don't know that it's like different than it was 2 weeks ago. But he's still going to push across wins. And then there's guys that are toward the back end of teams that the back ends of rosters, or were drafted late in drafts, or might be available on waiver wires, or just aren't as important as the aforementioned tiers. And so I think everybody's got to kind of fit here, because if you get a waiver wire pickup that goes off, like Ty Jerome, that's obviously going to move the needle quite a bit. That's a player that wasn't on your team, that's now on your team, that's potentially giving you top 30 value in the case of Ty Jerome. Really freaking big deal there. But is it going to be as much as, say, Nikola Jokic just going off? So anyway, that's a little bit of my thought process there. I'm sure you had an equivalently lengthy and obtuse thought process on your side over there, Doc. But here we are. How would you like to approach it on your end? Who do you have as your first of 5 players that you would expect to lead teams to championships in a head-to-head league?
Well, I'm going to start with Bol. I think everything ends and begins with Bol at this point. And who knew at the beginning of this year we would be talking about Bol so much in February and March. It is March, by the way. Welcome to March. I don't know. Maybe it's a bold prediction. But things are toxic in Phoenix. It is a wasteland. It is a deserted island. I'm glad I'm not a big Phoenix Suns fan, because I would be, I'd rather be a Suns fan than a Dallas fan, but I'd be a little miserable if I was a Suns fan. And I just think that you've got to let Bol play. Like I think the fans want Bol to play. Like, he is a fan favorite everywhere he's been. I'm sure in Phoenix, they probably chant his name occasionally, like, put Bol in the game. The Suns are 3.5 games behind the Kings to get into the playoffs. They've got to just give up at this point. Free Bol.
The thing that scares me the most about this is, like, Bud hasn't been a good coach for probably 3 to 4 years now. I mean, and it felt bad to criticize the final days in Milwaukee, because his brother had passed and there was all this off the court, downer stuff that obviously would challenge anybody, but he just hasn't done anything right. I can't even recall the last time he did something right as a coach, it feels like. And to me, it's like a no-brainer to play Bol. I don't care if he does stupid things on defense. I don't care if he doesn't stand in the right spot all the time, or if he takes too many shots, or if, he's got deficiencies, players can kind of push him around and blah, blah, blah. All these things add up. But like Bull scares a defense to the extent that like you can't block his shot. You can't, once he gets to certain spots on the court, you can't stop him. And you as a defense have to prepare for that. And it's just one more compelling thing to offer. Whereas like Royce O'Neal, does anybody care? Grayson Allen, I love him to death, right? I love him to death. Does anybody care? Like, does the opposing team game plan for either of those players? Do they game plan for Tyus Jones? They don't. But a Bull next to a Kevin Durant, that's a weird little, that's a lot of arms and legs to get through. And you give yourself a chance by playing Bull. He could absolutely, like, if you go full Bull, he could be a top 20 play.
Full Bull.
You got to go full Bull. You always pack a full Bull for Bull.
Yes, you do. Some other guys I've got, and you can talk about them.
Sure,
we can talk about them. I still
thank you for that.
I still think Day'Ron Sharpe is going to be a thing in Brooklyn.
You think he's going to push across championships?
I think he could. Because Brooklyn's weird. Nick Claxton's terrible, dude. Just let Day play. So I like Day'Ron. I think once Paul George is shut down, I think Quentin Grimes could be a monster. He's struggling right now. He's actually kind of a faller right now because George is playing so well. But all it takes is the Sixers shutting down Paul George, and then Grimes is a monster. And then LaMelo Ball goes down. KJ Simpson, hello. That is all day. I like KJ Simpson to be a huge silly season hero. And then, Brew, how sometimes, when I was at Roto World, when I was at ESPN or am at ESPN, a lot of times I get asked to make a crazy, what do they call it when you're making a,
pull something out of your ass?
Yeah, bold prediction. There it is. Thank you, Andre. Make a bold prediction, and I am making a bold prediction.
There's a big setup here. This better be bold, buddy,
because I'm hoping it comes through. But I'm not saying that you should run out and pick this guy up. I'm not saying that I honestly believe this is going to happen, but there's a chance, and that is that Damian Baugh is going to ball out for the Charlotte Hornets once they decide that they're done playing basketball this season.
It's a Baugh prediction.
That was a Ball prediction right there.
The Ball prediction right there. Well, okay, let's flip this a little bit. And I do want to come back to some of these silly season potential types or maybe a shade or two higher as far as ranks and expectations. But like I got Jokic and Shea as the guys that are going to push across wins, because I think Denver needs to play pretty much all the way down the stretch to maintain some semblance of seeding. I think that they have struck a decent balance this season. It doesn't feel like Jokic is like completely tired or exhausted. He's had some players helping him all season. It hasn't been like before. And maybe the locals would argue otherwise. But like he and Shea, if Cleveland is anything of a motivator for them to stay, ahead of them in the win-loss column to keep home court advantage. In addition, I think Shea's on a quest for MVP, and I don't even know how hard he's pushing for it, but I think team-wise, organizationally-wise, his teammates are probably pushing for him to get that. He is freaking indestructible in the box score. It doesn't matter if they blow the other team out, he gets his numbers. If he's playing against the world's best team, he gets his numbers. They're just something of a wonder. So I think those two players, and then after that, I mean, the tier of big name guys was, preseason was Luka and Wemby. Wemby's gone. Luka insert joke here is being Luka, and he's in LA. It's still weird to watch. But so like that top tier isn't, there's nobody else to talk about there, but like who behind them is going to go off the rest of the way? Like in the top, say 20 players, who do you like to just power through? And when we look at like, why did this guy win his fantasy league? It's because that dude was on his team and that dude went off the rest of the way.
Luka Doncic.
You're pro Luka right now. I saw you wore the jersey the other night in the show.
Rick and I have been. Yeah, it was Jersey. That was a Jersey. Rick and I have been arguing about Luka, and he's totally down on Luka right now, and I'm totally in. I'm all in on Luka. So,
my favorite was his interview after the game against Dallas. After just they interviewed him after the game, he looked shook, like he didn't know what to say. Like he was nervous on air.
Yeah, and he was just glad it was over, man.
Yeah. And that was a really interesting moment. I thought, hey, is this guy really shook over like all of the just the talk, surrounding his habits, hookahs, beers, weight, all of that. And then in the following game, this was the first game I thought Luka had that look of like, I want to like, tear you apart. And he seems normal again. So I would take that and say you're going to get angry Luka the rest of the way.
He seems normal again. I think that is that's what I'm saying. And he's not only is he normal again, but he's pissed off and he's angry. And he wants to rub Nico's face in all of this crap that he says about him. He doesn't want to miss games. I think Luka is going to fight like hell to stay healthy, finish out the season, and go off.
Well, I'll bring in another name to this equation. And first of all, it's still freaking weird as hell to watch Luka in a Lakers jersey. Like I've seen it now 4 times or something. And it's like, I'm still just watching it. Like, I can't believe this is happening, but I'll bring the other name into the mix. It's Austin Reeves. A lot of people predicted Austin Reeves to fall off. I was not one of them. I've been an Austin Reeves guy all year. I'm going to get on my mountain of self-promotion here and yap it away. But like, here's the thing with Luka and what Reeves does is you got this little mini super team here practically where LeBron's LeBron. He gets to all his spots. He does whatever he wants. The refs love him and all this good stuff from a basketball perspective that LeBron brings to the table. Luka's obviously Luka, but then you bring in Reeves who can handle the ball as well as most players in the league. And he has all of the tools in the bag and he makes things so hard to cover. You have 3 players that can make plays the way that those 3 guys can make. And I think what it does is it puts them into kind of almost that OKC statistical profile where they're so good that their good players are going to be great on every night. And I think Austin Reeves might be great on every night the rest of the way forward. So I have him in one of my, if this is a top 5 players list, I got about 25 of them on my list. Of course, Austin Reeves is in the mix. But to your point about Luka is I think that the just pure presence of Austin Reeves makes them potent to the point where those 3 guys could break the box score together every single night and it won't matter. And the other players on the team aren't really producers. So I think it just sets up.
I was worried about Austin Reeves falling off when Luka got there, but it hasn't happened at all.
It was logical to think that way. And also I think everybody thought that. I'm a little over the top of Reeves, but
Austin Reeves is really, really good at basketball. Like he's so good. I love Austin Reeves.
He has elements of Steph in his game on dribble drives to the hoop and the way that he uses his body. And then he can score at all 3 levels. And that's just great. Some other threat level Holmgren hit my list. I don't know if he's going to take games off, but I think if he doesn't, holy moly, like the stat line from last week was crazy. You could see a lot there. Cade Cunningham's been going off, and there's really no reason for him to stop going off. And Detroit's going to have their foot on the gas the entire rest of the way. Anthony Edwards might be a guy that's on a mission down the stretch. I think Jimmy Butler might be a difference maker the rest of the way. Steph Curry as a result of Jimmy Butler's presence. What else? What else you got, Doc? You got any
I think it's interesting. I think it's interesting how you and I interpreted the same question so differently. Because I went with waiver wire scrubs that were gonna, because when it's like name a guy that is going to lead you to a championship over the next couple of weeks. When I picked up Jeremy Lin right before Linsanity happened in 2011 or 12, he won me leagues.
That's how good that pickup was. It's being mentioned in 2025.
It's the greatest pickup I've ever made in any fantasy sports league in 35 years. Jeremy Lin right before Linsanity happened to win me 30 deep. It was.
Can we go back to those times? Those were fun times.
It was incredible. Another guy I think that's going to carry teams down the stretch is James Harden for the Clippers. They're only a half game up on the Warriors right now. The Warriors are on fire. Clippers have to keep fighting till the end because Minnesota and Dallas and Sacramento are all right behind the Clippers. Like the Clippers could fall all the way to the 10th seed if they don't win games. So I think James Harden and his Clipper teammates are going to fight till the end. Norm Powell, Ivica Zubac. So that's another one I think is very intriguing.
Digging into some of our waiver discussion from the past couple of days, Kyle Filipowski keeps coming back to me as this, I'm like, is this guy going to be what we're kind of talking about here? I don't know about league winner. It's hard. Like if you're not going to push across a top 60 value, I don't know if you're a league winner in my mind. Like you're a contributor towards a league title, championship. If you're, coming in and providing top 75, top 100 value for your squad. But Filipowski's got this mixture of efficiency with scoring and 3-pointers, and then he's playing in Utah, so there's a randomness of availability of stats. He can get a couple rebounds here and there, maybe a couple of assists, maybe some defensive stats on a good night. And he hasn't really been cut loose, and they're about to start competing for Cooper Flag. And that to me, I keep coming back to Filipowski as a possible top 60 guy. If he's a top 60 guy, I don't think he's in my top 5 for league winners, but at least he's an honorable mention. And then another one like that would be Keldon Johnson.
Yeah.
Like it's not pretty. There's holes in it. But if he starts scoring 20 points a game because the Spurs turn the page and, they're just out of it and they want to, say, heaven forbid, something happens to De'Aaron Fox and he goes down. That's Keldon Johnson territory. So I don't know if it's league winner territory, but I would be he has the potential to not really enter that discussion, but to be very, very good for folks down the stretch. I got more names, but you got anybody else that's possible league winner territory? Your guy Josh Giddey. Did you talk about Giddey?
I did not talk about Giddey.
How am I the one talking about Giddey?
I'm giddy about Giddey.
You are giddy about Giddey. Give me some bars on Giddey.
As I said on Friday, I'm not a lot about self-promotion like some people. But man, did I call the Josh Giddey thing. I totally nailed it. And I have Giddey on all my teams. I'm giddy about Giddey. I was giddy about Giddey before the season started, and people were like, he can't shoot. He doesn't do
but that's my voice, by the way. Keep doing your Brew impression.
He was such a better player than he showed in Oklahoma City, because he had it's just like Jalen Williams, man. You take Jalen Williams and throw him on the Bulls, superstar, best player in the league.
Damn, those are some words right there.
I believe it. I think if Jalen Williams did not play in the shadow of Shea, Jalen Williams, I mean, he's going to be one of the best players in the league for the next 10 years. But Josh Giddey has just been awesome in Chicago. He's a triple-double threat every night. He's hitting threes. He's shooting it well. He's blocking shots. He's stealing the ball. He's literally doing everything. And nothing's going to slow him down. I think he's good to go the rest of the way. I think you're right. League winner.
Look, 38% three-point shooting on the season for Josh Giddey. And the interesting part for him is currently in his current tear that he's on. Like, I mean, this guy is just going off like over the last few weeks, but even over like the last month. Giddey, top 20 over the last month in 12 games, shooting 51.3% from the field and 83.3% from the foul line on 4 attempts per game. So my question for the Josh Giddey hive out there, led by Steve Alexander, is can he keep up the shooting? Because typically he's like a 46, 7, 8% free field goal shooter. Free throws really has improved over the last couple of years. That might be the unknown nugget here. Like last season in Oklahoma City, 1.6 attempts. So not really going to the foul line because of all those players they had there. But he jumped from the 70 to 73 that he experienced in his first 2 seasons to 80.6% in last season at OKC. So there's actually a framework for this to be real, not just some hot streak. And then in the hot streak, 83% on 4 attempts per game, which is driving his value up considerably. The steals are high right now. The blocks are high right now. But
dude, over the last 2 weeks, Josh Giddey is the number 2 fantasy player overall in 9-cat. 24 points, 12 rebounds, 3.5 threes, 8 assists, 1.5 steals, 1.3 blocks, shooting 58% and 94 from the line.
And here's the thing, and
he's feeling it, dude.
And a lot of this, you know, your trade deadline might not have passed in your fantasy league. So trying to figure out what's real and what's not, and who you might want to try to buy into, and how you might try to angle with things could be super consequential in your league. And with Giddey, what I'm saying is there's definitely room for a shooting slump to hit. He's over his numbers. He's got to come back at some level. But the counter to that is that you only got 20 some odd games left. It's possible for players to ride a hot streak for 20 straight games or go above baseline for 20 more games. And it gets more likely in each passing week that somebody can just kind of eschew the numbers and go for it. Giddey's that guy right now. Top 20, top 10. That's amazing. That's amazing. So he could definitely be a league winner. I got Ty Jerome. We talked about him a lot in the last couple of days. Jerome, basically a late round value all season on a per game basis, and can reach up and get you top 30, top 20 at a given moment's notice. If any of the guys above him get rested, and with Cleveland ahead, there's going to be plenty of opportunities for rest. Brook Lopez, I've got on the radar. It feels like, especially if guys are taking games off and Milwaukee still needs to win games, Brook Lopez has that top 20 potential, the punching power to push across wins. So if you're looking at trades, definitely give him a look. Butler had a bad game while Steph went off for whatever 58 points or whatever it was. So I think people might be a little down on him here in the short term, but Golden State's winning. They need to win. I think they like figuring out what Jimmy's all about on the court, so I don't see them going away from him. So he's a low-key possible league winner. You mentioned Bol, I think, in your open. I had him on my list. I had Donovan Clingan on my list. Yeah, we talked about him. Was it today or yesterday?
I don't know how I feel about that.
No, because you would rather have.
I like his name. I like his name. I don't like his game.
I'm worried about injury, but you know what? When you're thinking about like pickups that could or not pickups, whatever he's rostered, maybe not. He's got punching power. Like when he's been good this season, he's been a top 30, 40 guy. Granted, these have been like little 2 to 3 game spurts, and we haven't seen enough of them or a lot of them even. But he kind of rose to my threshold of like, who's a player that could, possibly go off? Well, I guess it's Clingan. But yeah, these to me. Oh, and Keon Ellis. I got to throw Keon Ellis in there, and here's why.
What are you throwing him in on?
As potential league winner type players.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here is why. For Keon Ellis on the season, and get his numbers in front of me. Yeah, I just did the McDonald's thing. You can shoot me later. Keon Ellis, the 70th overall ranked player in 9-cat leagues cumulatively this season. So if you stuck with Keon all year, he brought you back top 70 value. Now, that might not play as well in head-to-head leagues. In Roto formats, that's a 9-cat number. So if you're in an 8-cat league, it's not like as great as top 70 sounds. It's also been a pain in the butt. This sample comes in 22 minutes per game. And Sacramento wants to play him 30 minutes per game. They have too many players, but they want to play him that much. I think Doug Christie knows that he's that good. Every time he plays, they win. Every time he plays, he does something crazy good. So they want to play him. They just have a minutes and a math problem there. One injury, and he goes right up to close to 30 minutes per game. 1 or 2 injuries, now he's going to be asked to do a lot more with the ball. He generally makes good decisions with the ball. He shoots a lot of 3-pointers. So while we know he's going to get you 3 steals and blocks this season, on the entire season, he's averaged 4 combined 3s, steals, and blocks per game in just 22 minutes. Think about what that looks like at 30 minutes per game. He might push that number to 5, and then he might start also getting you the PRA. His percentages are great. It's all upside with a great floor. Keon Ellis, if Sacramento cuts him loose, it's going to be fun.
You know how people say I'm going down with the Luka Doncic ship. Like, I'm staying in it until the end. I don't care if it kills me. I'm staying in. Dude, you are going down with the Keon Ellis ship.
There's no down. It's profitable all season long. In a head-to-head situation, I don't know. Like, I guess all bets are off with that. But purely production-wise, this guy's played basketball, and he's gotten numbers across in limited minutes and been great on the floor. So it's hard to argue with. But I get your point. I will go down with
head-to-head. He's not even head-to-head. He's not even on the radar, dude. And fantasy basketball is a head-to-head game. It's not a roto game. I don't know when or how you got all caught up in roto, and that's a discussion I don't think we've ever had. But this is a head-to-head game.
It's so funny. There's such a divide in fantasy circles.
Baseball is a roto. That is a roto game.
The high stakes world, all roto all the time. I doubt those guys mess around with too much head to head, but
yeah,
the majority of basketball is played head to head. My question for the head to head audience is, where are you going to get the 4 3 steals and blocks per game out there in the marketplace while not tanking 2 categories of production, while still getting moderate production in the areas of PR and A? But where are you going to get the steals, blocks, and the threes at that level?
On the season, Keon Ellis is averaging 8 points per game, 1.8 3-pointers, 2.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, 1.4 steals, and 0.8 blocks.
Beauteous.
Like, I don't get it. I must be stupid.
It's that percentages are whatever for people, and turnovers are whatever for people in the 9-cat head-to-head kind of marketplace.
0.8 turnovers. Like that is impressive.
That's the thing, is it's like 3 categories are generally sort of kind of like, I mean, if you had Rick here, he'd be like, I don't care about percentages at all, and I don't care about turnovers at all. He wants to win in the PRA and the steals and the blocks and the threes. So Keon's great in 3 of those areas, and not great in the others. So it's an incredible balance. And then, when you consider that the percentages are what they are, he's not hurting you. It's fascinating stuff to me. I don't know. Like, I would devalue those categories percentages and turnovers possibly a little bit, but the math side of my brain's kind of like those are worth winning. It's worth it to try to get those wins.
And he's like Josh Giddey, dude. He needs a different team. He needs to be somewhere where he can play. Because
Sacramento screwed it up every which way from Saturday, but that's typical. And but again, my thinking and my thought process here is you can have yourself a first round or probably an early round player if one or two injuries occur, and or they get locked in for the 10 seed or something, and there's just nowhere to go for them, and they're just deciding, okay, hey, let's get DeMar DeRozan some rest. Let's get Zach LaVine, who's doesn't look spry. Even when he's playing well, he doesn't look spry. So there's opportunities, I believe. I didn't say he was in my top 5. I said he was on the list. My list of 25.
I just love the fact. 5. I love the fact that you're.
I'm going down.
You're talking about Keon Ellis the same today as you were in August. It's exactly
consistency.
I love it. And that's me and Josh Giddey. I'll take Josh.
You'll take Josh. I'll take Keon. And Keon would lock up Josh, no questions asked. All right, that's going to do it for the show. We covered all the players that you need to stream with. We covered all the players that you need to win with. And we're going to leave it at that. Guys, check out the free app. Check out the baseball draft guide. Check out our shiny new promo code, AllSport25, to get the 25% off for 6 months on our membership, which would get you all sports, baseball, NFL draft guide right around the corner, NBA draft guide right around the corner, as we're actually planning for that. Let us know what you guys like to see around the platform, whether it's on the free or the paid side. Let us know what you'd like to see at the website. You can shoot any sort of feedback into support@sportsethos.com. You can tweet me, Aaron Bruski, on Twitter. Tweet at Dr. A, DOCKTORA. Thank you guys for all of your support. And that will do it for us here today. This show has been presented by Bet Online. Till next time, ladies and gentlemen, be well.